Hello everyone, welcome again to today's session. We'll be talking about optimizing our REST call to our external service, which in this case is the employee service. Now, from our previous sessions, we have been making use of making a call for each particular employee to get the department information. So what you're going to make use of, you're going to make use of a method of batching, whereby once you have the list of employees that we need to deal with, we are going to make a batch request, one single request to our department service to get us all the departments with those IDs. And then from there, we can now create a map of each particular department ID with the department information. Then now for each particular employee, we proceed and set the department information from the map. Now let's see how you're going to do that. So the first thing that you're going to do, we are going to refactor our application a little bit. So I'm going just to remove this to-do list here. So once we get the details from the DB, we'll be able to have it here. All right. Now the next thing that you're going to do, this particular method here, whereby we are getting the employee list per particular ID, we are going to refactor this particular method. So I'm going just to make use of Control-Alt-M and introduce a method, which is going to be simply returning or setting the employee list. And in this case, you're going to say set. It's going to be set department information by individual calls. Right? So I'm going just to have that set department. Let me refactor this one correctly. So I need to refactor department. Yeah, set department information by individual calls given this particular list. Right? So remember here we are sending the list by reference. So this is what we have been doing. Now what I want us to do is that for each particular employee that we have here, we are going to extract the employee, the department IDs. All right. So this is the first one. So this is number one. How the first method. So we can see, let me just put some logs here. I'm going to say log, solution 1, right? So this is our solution 1, right? So this is our solution 1. Now let's see, how are we going to implement solution 2? So I might just to comment this one for now, for our case. Right, so this is solution 1. I might just to make use of this one, question mark. This is our solution 1. Now let's see what is going to be our solution 2. So we are going to make another solution. So the first thing that you're going to do is to extract all the department IDs from this particular list. So what you're going to do quickly is going to be very simple. So you're going to get a list of department IDs by streaming this employee list. So we are going to say employee list.stream. So you're going to stream, and for this one we are going to map each particular employee. You're going to map the employee department. So you're going to say employee dot get department ID. Right? So once you have that, then we are going to do collect to list. So we are going to just say to list. Right? So this one will be able to give us the list of department IDs. Right? So I'm going to just introduce this one as a new local variable, which is going to be department IDs, which is a list of integers. And in this case, instead of using this one, you can make use of, it's the same as making use of the same method reference. So you can replace this one. I'm going just to leave this one line and have it commented. This should be the same as employee. So in this case, you're going to have the employee response, then colon get department ID. So it's going to be the same method reference in this case. All right. Why is it not picking this one? Okay, so we can go with the first way, which is getting employee.get the department ID. In this case, we are getting the employee with the department. Sorry. Now, we needed to make use of the employee with the department because that is what we have in our list. So we are into use of get department. You can see this one is here. So we can make reference to that. So this should be the same as this. So whatever the method reference that we are doing here is actually doing the same thing, that whenever we get an employee, return an employee department, right? We return its department ID, all right? Now the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to make use of our client. So our choice of client, in this case, we are going to make use of a new client to make the call to external to get the data. Now to do this, we are going to make another function. So in this case, we are going to make another function which is going to return us all the departments, the list of departments with this ID. So before we do that, we are going to have something like this. We are going to make a call to the department endpoint. So it is going to be http localhost / localhost 881 department, and then we are going to have department, and then we are going to have batch. Right? So we are going to have a section for batch. Now what we are going to do, we are going to send a payload which is going to be an array of IDs. So we can have ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, ID 5, and 7. Right? So we are going to send this particular batch as the list of IDs that we want. And then in return, this one is going to give us a list of department response. Now, how do we do that? So the first thing that we need to do, we need to have a method within the department service which is able to accept the payload as, which is the body as the list of IDs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the department service. All right. So I'm going to go to our controller here. We are going to introduce another post mapping. So I'm going just to have a simple post mapping here, post mapping, which is this one, post mapping, and it's going to be batch. So in this case, department / batch. Now we are going to expect back a list of department response. So list of department response. Right? So you're going to expect this one back, and this one is going to get departments by IDs. Right? So the request is going to be a list of integer. So you're going to expect a list of integers, and this particular list is going to be IDs. Right? Then from here, we don't have this service. So what we're going to do is going to have the department service, and then we are going to ideally return directly by making use of department service dot get department IDs by IDs. So in this case, we are going to supply our IDs here. Right? So it's going to be a very simple function. So a quick fix, we are going to create this method within our list, our department service. So in this case, if we go to the department service, we're going to return a department response given these IDs. Now, the next thing that we need to do, remember, is to do the implementation. So we need to add the implementation of that method within this class. So I might just to go up here and click quick fix and then add an implemented method. So once you have this, we are going to make use of the inbuilt repository method, and in this case we are just to say department repository. So we are going to make use of a similar case whereby you are streaming everything else. So I'm going just to copy this one from listing, whereby we are going to list everything. But then now, instead of find all, what we are going to do, we are going to say find all by IDs. So we mean just to have that and then supply the IDs here. Alright. So I might just to say it's a department repository, find all by IDs. Now, in this case, you can see that this method doesn't exist, so we need to create this particular method. And how then do we create this particular method? We need to have it within our repository. So ideally it's going to be find all by ID, right? And this one now you can see that it's ideally given by default, so we can just say find all by ID. You can see that it's taking an iterable of IDs, so that's all the method that we need. So this is an inbuilt method coming from Spring Boot repository. So in this case, you can see that we have handy method to find all the departments with this given IDs. Now that's all that you need to do on the department service. Let me see that it's up. You can see that everything is up and running. Now if we make the call, so let's just say we are going to have to go to the department service REST control. Then we are going to make one single request here, addition request, which is going to be get departments by IDs, right? So I'm going just to make that, and then it's going to be batch, right? Now let's confirm. It's going to be a post mapping. So here we are going to expect content type of this one to be JSON, application JSON, and then from there we are going to have our payload, which is going to be a list. So we're going just to have a list of numbers. So we are going just to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I know that we don't have up to 5, but then if I send that, you can see that at the moment there is no static method resource API department batch. So let me check once again. What did we expose? We need to have API department. So let me restart this service a little bit just to have that one up again. Alright, so that we are sure that the service did the restart. Now we are going to have a post mapping to this endpoint. Okay. Alright, so that is started. Now the next thing that we're going to do is going to be very simple. Let me make the call once again. No static resource, origin access. So let's see what is happening here. Yeah, something that we had amiss. As you can see, the department service is running on port 881, so I needed to adjust my localhost port. Now in this case, if I make the request once again, I should be able to get the list of departments. As you can see that we have departments with ID 4, 3, and 2. So we don't have 1 and we don't have 5. So that's how simply it's going to work. And it's going to do select stuff from TPL departments where ID in now the list of our IDs. So we have the endpoint on the department service exposed. Now let's see how you're going to make that call from our employee service. So we go back. Let me close everything once again. We go to our employee service. Then down here, we're going to make the call. Now for this case, I'm going just to make use of the REST client all along. For this particular inter-service communications, I'm going to make use of the new REST client, which is available from 3.25 to make this particular call. So I'm going just to make this call simply by having a list. So I'm going just to say REST client dot. We're going to make use of posts. All right. Then from there, we're going to say which URI. I'm going to make first of the URI. In this case, the URI is going to be this one. So I'm going just to copy that one into this one. All right. So we're going to make the URI to that, and then we're going to do dot body. I'm going to have my department IDs. All right. So with that, then the next thing I'm going to do is going to be exchange. So I'm going just to do what is it going to be? It's going to be retrieve. So I'm going just to do retrieve, and then what I'm going to retrieve, the body that I'm going to retrieve is going to be a list of department response. So I'm going just to have parameterized. So I'm going to say new parameterized reference, and in this case we're going to make use of new parameterized. Sorry. parameterized reference. So which is going to be parameterized reference. So it's going to be new parameterized. So I'm just have new parameterized type reference. All right. So I'm just going to leave it that way. So let me just minimize. There's no space here. So I want to remove that. But then here within this one, we're going to introduce now what is our type parameter. Now the type parameter that we're going to receive back is going to be the department response. So which is going to be under the we need this particular type, which is going to be the department response dot class. So that's all that we need to do here. Right. So once you have that, then we just need to introduce the semicolon. And this one, if you go to make the call, get us the information about the departments with those IDs that we supply, and then from there we can proceed and assign this one to a local variable. So I'm going just to introduce a local variable here, which is going to be assign the details, which is going to be the department response. And in this case, we are going to get a list. So allow me to quickly switch this one first. So we are going to get a list of this one. So we need to be keen on that list of the department response. So you can see that we are going to expect a list back of department response. Okay. Now let me assign this one into a local variable, which is going to be introduce a new local variable. In this case, it's going to be departments. Okay. Now, once you have these departments, now for each particular employee, we need to create a map for each particular ID. This is the department, and then we can proceed to do a map of our departments. So in this case, we are going to have the departments dot map dot stream. So you want to stream this one. So dot stream dot map. Okay, so department dot stream, this is a list. We are into list and then collect everything into a map. So we are going to map this one using collectors dot to map. So we are going to make use of collectors to map, and we are going to make use of the department ID. So in this case, it's going to be department response dot get department number. So we're going to store each particular department number. Then what we are going to get, we're going to make use of the function dot identity. So we're going to make use of identity, and this is from the function. As you can see, this is the util function, whereby we have the identity method, and that is all that we need to do. So with that, we have a map which will be able to store the department and the value. So I'm going to introduce this one. It's going to be the map, department map. Right. So once you have this department map, then the next thing that we need to do is now to return the employee list with that particular data set. Now what we are going to do here, as you can see, we were doing for each. So what we're going to do here is going to be employee list dot stream. We're going to stream. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is simply going to be something small dot stream, then dot in this case we're going to map each particular employee, then we're going to map this one to map the department. So we're going to set employee dot set department response. We're going to set this particular department response by using the department map dot get. So we're going to get the value of the department response using what? The department employee dot get department ID. Right. So that's all that we need to do here to have that. Then from there, once everything is done, we are going to do to list, convert it back to the list. So let's see. we are going to do employee set the department response, going to be get this value. All right, and then let me see what is missing here. You can see here employee with the department, so it's going to be let me quickly view this one first. So let me cut that, then introduce this one, and I'm going to have employee first thing first. So it's going to be that simple, right? This one, and we need to cross that way, and then department. So then we are into, after doing that, we are into return the employee after it has been set. So that is all that we need to do, right? So we need to do the set. So I'm going to stream and then set the value and then return. So that's all that we need to do. And now let's see how best we can be able to get this, right? So this is the second method. I'm going to refactor this one into a method whereby we are going to return the employee list so that we can return the original one. And now that is for solution 1. So solution 2 is going to run from getting the list of departments, then making the call with the department IDs, then getting back a department response, creating a map of that department, right? Then creating a map of that department with just the department ID and the department response. And then whenever we be now returning our original list, we are going to set the department using the employee or the employee the department dot get department ID, and that will be able to return the employee, and then from there we proceed to return the list of details. So that's how simple, though this one took time, but then it will be able to optimize our performance in this case whereby we'll be just making one single call to the department service, getting all the data and now transforming it to the department or the employee list. Now let's see this one in action. I'm going to save that, and before we start refactoring, let's just confirm that it's working. So the first thing I'm going to do is send that request. As you can see, we still maintained the operation. But then how many calls were made to the other side? Now let's refactor our method and introduce the logging so that we can see how many calls were made to the other side. Now what I'm going to do is going to be very simple. So it's going to be from here. I'm going to extract this one method, Ctrl-Alt-M, and I'm going to say get departments, get employees by making batch requests to department service. Right? So I'm going just to have that. I'm going to refactor this one with capital M, and this is going to be capital M. So you can see it's going to be that simple. So this is the one that is going to give us the get employee. Now let's just introduce some logging here a little bit. So you're going to say logging.info. So you're going to say making the call by batch. Right? So you're going to have batch. Right? So that's all that we need to do. And then we can also introduce logging on the department service just to be sure of everything that we are doing. All right. So I'm going just to go to the department control, and I'm going to introduce how many times do we make this log. So I'm going to introduce sample log here. It's going to be at SL4J. Then I'm going to introduce get by department number. So it's going to be log.info getting information, right? And then you're going to have the method. In this case, going to be get by department number, right? So you need to have that call. Then now for this other one, we are going just to have by batch. So in this case, we are going to do get by this. So we are going to see how many times it's going to make the call, to the department service. So with all that done and up and running, so just confirm this is up and running. All right, now let's make the call. Now mind just to quickly make the call here using the employee service endpoint. So make the call. You can see we have that, and you can see that we made just one call, getting information get by department by IDs, and that's all that we need to make. And you can see that we are making the call by batch. Now let me just quickly uncomment a little bit so that we can see if we were to make use of the return statement. And in this case, I mean just to make use of the first case, whereby we are going to make use of this one and comment the first solution, and then we are going to see how many times we are going to make the call. So let me just duplicate this one and then return the employee list from lesson 1, right? So we're just to have this one a little bit up here immediately so that it can be combined as solution 1, and then solution 2 will be combined down here, right? Now that's all. Let me refresh that, and we can see that for now we have confirmed it's one call, but then let's see on the whenever we are making for each particular employee, we are making the call to the other side, how many times it's going to make. So I might just to quickly come again here and send the request. You can see that we got the department by number by 1 the first time, we returned the response, we made another call. And then on the employee service, you can see that we are making 2 actual calls using the REST template. Now that is not optimal. That's why we are switching to the new way of doing things. Whereby we are going to send the actual IDs that we want. So this is solution 1 is going to end here, and then now solution 2 runs from here. So we are going to have our solution 2. I needed to transfer this one to solution 2, which is going to be down here, just for purposes of information. We are going to have that here, right? So it's the same thing that we had, which is supposed to be something like this. Okay, so it seems that it's going to 2 lines. Yeah, now that is solution 2, whereby we just going to make use of this particular function to make the call. As you can see, very simple. And now you can see that now the logic for doing that is actually here. And I've tried to explain as much as possible on this one. So here it's complaining potential null. We can do a quick fix. And what we're going to do is going to be making use of a null check. Right, so what we're going to do is going to make use of a null check, quick fix. And this one, you're going to check if it's null, if the departments equal to null, that means we add an exception. Then what we're going to do, we are going to set departments, in this case we are going to say departments equal to collection dot empty, and in this case collection from Java util dot empty. In this case we are going to have dot, what is it called? Let me just see. It's going to be new array list. So you can just introduce a new array list object just to initialize the value, which will be ideally empty. That's all in terms of making the call using the optimal way of sending batch IDs to the other service to get the list of department, then using the map of each particular ID, you're mapping its response. Then now using that map, you can obtain for each particular department or employee, you're able to get the equivalent department information from that particular map, which is a bit optimal because you won't be overwhelming the other service with many calls. That's all that we have done. So as you can see, we have illustrated the process of making use of the call using the REST template. Then we are making use of the new REST client, and then we did make use of the web client. So for this particular case, I might just leave ours being making use of the new way of things. So I might just to push this one a little bit up, and then I'll comment this and then comment this one. So we'll be making use of REST clients to make our calls. So that's all that we have learned in terms of communicating from one service to another, using the payloads, and we can see that we have made use of all the three clients, one being the REST client config. You configure all the beans that you require, which is for the web client, then the REST client and REST template. Then remember, the REST template is being duplicated, so it would be good if you start making use of the REST client. Now for the web client, if you're making use of Spring Boot 3.25, you don't necessarily need this one because you don't need this additional dependence of the web flags. So if you don't need to make use of the web flags, then you can just proceed to make use of the REST client, which is the new HTTP REST client that we have in Spring Boot and which is modern for use. Thank you for watching the video. Remember to subscribe, share, like, comment, and criticize the video, and let me know what you would love me to do next in our sessions. Thank you very much, and till next time, bye bye.